Cosplay here, and I am so excited to bring to you a brand new tutorial video. Today's sewing tutorial video is going all the way back. I'm talking way back, retro 1950s vintage. Yes, that is right. Right beside me, I have my very first vintage style apron that I made 100% by myself, and I am so excited about it. Not too shabby for the first time I've ever created an apron, let alone a fun, funky, unique retro style. So this video, I'm going to do a little twist on it. I'm not going to show you this exact model, but I'm going to show you a half skirt apron from this same pattern that I used to create this style apron. This is a full apron, 1950s vintage style, and it also has some details on the back. If I just turn this around for you, as you see, it is covered completely in the back. I did incorporate 3 buttons so it can fasten to remove and put on the apron quite easily. I left this back end open, just easy for flexibility and in case if I ever grow. So I have room to grow into this apron as well. This current mannequin is basically my size. We're looking at 34-inch waist, 32 to 34-inch bust. This would be a size small or a size 4 in the US. This pattern that I used is also a size 4. So I'm going to come up a little bit closer to the camera to give you a better visual of the patterns that I'm using. Today I'm going to be using these Pattern by Simplicity that I picked up at my local Joann fabric store. This is the 1950s vintage apron patterns, and you have quite a variety of patterns that you can use. So I'm super excited to try all of these. This was my very first apron that I created, type A. Now I'm going to show you how to make apron type B on the bottom here. This is a really fun, unique style. I love the vintage twist on all of these aprons. This one should be particular easy. I thought this would be a great video to make just because it's not going to incorporate as much fabric as type A did, and that would be a super long video and I would need a lot of material for that. But type B is only 3 panels of fabric and it's only covering the front area here. The back will be exposed and you'll have a cute little ribbon or bow to tie it all together to fit comfortably on your waist. So I'm super excited to try apron type B, and it's also got some cute little ruffle trims on the bottom there, so we're definitely going to incorporate that, and I can't wait to show you what fabric we're going to be using for this apron style. So why don't I show you some of the fabric, shall we? All right, so I have my fabric gathered with me. I'm also going to do a close-up kind of visual with you here. I was going to lay everything out nice and neat, but my craft table is completely filled, which I totally need to do more spring cleaning in here. Anyway, why don't I show you with the fabric that we are going to be working with. So I'm going to be using this beautiful cotton fabric. This is just screaming vintage all over it. Yes, it is floral. Something about the floral and vintage, it just meshes so well. So I'm super excited to finally use this fabric for something really fun and something that suits just the time era, and I'm really excited to use it to actually shine. I made a couple of fabric masks out of this before, but no, making a vintage style apron will do this fabric justice. So I'm very excited to do it. Let's just get a little close up here on the fabric pattern, a very beautiful floral design in blues and creams and super pretty. But I want to get a close up on the actual details here and the texture of the fabric. So if you look up close enough, you see that it is it's breathable, and it's got some woven patterns in it as well. It's not much of a stretch. A little bit more stretch of the last fabric I used. This is cotton as well, but this kind of reminds me of a cotton, almost like it's getting close to a canvas type material, if that makes sense. So this fabric was passed down to me as well as the other yellow floral fabric that I used for the other apron. So I don't have 100% detail on it, but to me, it looks like you can do maybe some really pretty throw pillows with this pattern. You can make awesome aprons with this, maybe a couple of really pretty handkerchiefs to put on the table just for decoration. Those type of things. Not something that is really used to be worn all the time, if that makes sense, or maybe something not to get too dirty all the time. I could also see maybe a cute little blazer made out of this too. But yeah, all right, I'm being a fabric geek right now. I'm sorry. Okay, anyway, moving on with the fabric. So I thought with the pockets, because this has two pockets in the front of the skirt, and also we're going to create a sash and a little bow that will tie this together on the waist. So I happen to have some more cotton, and I thought this would be a really pretty, just to go for something more of like a royal blue with a really nice pop of color here, but to kind of really bring out the darker, brighter colors of the fabric there. So I thought it would be really pretty to match those up. It's really hard to match up blues. I don't know if you noticed, but I did hear that blue is one of the hardest colors to match ever. Like, not one color blue is the same, apparently. Anywho, we're gonna try that out. That is a cotton as well. I believe that is 100% cotton. It is a fabric I picked up from Walmart. I know that much. Again, another Walmart find. I know, Joanne Fabric, I'm sorry, honey. I am cheating on you today for this project. But I was in a pinch. So I went to my local Walmart and, you know, browsing around. Should have just been buying groceries, but you know how that goes. I go on a little fabric adventure. So here's what I found. I didn't want to make ruffles for this apron for a couple reasons. One, the timing. I am considering crafting these and actually pushing them out for sale. So as we all know, time is money, right? Yeah. It is cheaper to make your own ruffles if you know what you're doing and you're not wasting all your fabric and thread and you're not wasting time. That is something I'd like to practice, is making ruffles and pleats. So maybe I could do another video for that separately. But I'm actually not incorporating my own DIY pleats or ruffles with this apron. So I'm skipping ahead and I'm getting pre-made ruffle trim. And I'm excited about it because it's cute, it's simple. I think it's giving me the vintage feels with a little floral design. I love the little laser cuttings as well. And it's just super cute. It's not overpowering size of ruffles. This is literally like an inch long. So I don't think it's going to take too much away from the fabric design itself. But it's also going to really just add that little extra vintage flair. So I'm very excited to use this. This is about 9 feet long. It's 100% polyester. Picked it up from my local Walmart and it was like $5 and change per roll. Ouch. Yeah, I know. Ouch. Unfortunately, Walmart doesn't really have coupons. I know you can use coupons there, but for this particular, again, it's simplicity. Funny. Simplicity. Usually I go to Joanne Fabrics for everything. They have awesome sales and they have awesome coupons. But again, I was in pinch, very spare the moment type thing as well. So Walmart, boom, had it. I picked up two, the last two actually. I wonder how much of this trim I'm going to use. Again, it's 3 panels. So let's just rewind really quick and just compare this Apron Type B half apron compared to this apron. So literally it's just going to be 3 panels and that's it. I don't know if you can see closely enough, but literally it's going to be boom, boom, boom. That's it. So that should be super fun. This apron for the very first time that I've ever made it, and I took a little bit longer because I was trying to match the patterns together. It's a lot easier if you're making aprons or any type of apparel if you have solid patterns or something that is just consistent, and not necessarily broken into images, kind of like this pattern here. I really wanted to capture the beauty of that fabric, and I wanted every pattern and design incorporated on each panel. I just wanted it to flow beautifully like a painting. So it took me longer to actually cut out the shapes because I couldn't necessarily just do double layers of the fabric and cut. I literally had to shape and measure and align the pictures on the fabric exactly so they would open up perfectly and actually look like a beautiful piece of art on the fabric. So yeah, it looks like I'll be doing the same for this apron, but it's not going to be as bad because it's just literally a half apron and it's just 3 panels in the front. So I'm excited with that. I could live with that. And now that I've already done my first test run, I feel more confident about using this pattern and making this half style apron. Literally, it took me about 6.5 hours to make this apron, and approximately, I would say approximately like 3.5 yards of the actual fabric. And then the trim, I must have used about, I don't know, 4.5 yards of trim. But yeah, it's all good. We're gonna make this happen. We're gonna make it work. I'm so excited to do this video, excited to do this half style apron, and it should be super fun. So I think we should get the ball rolling, and I'm going to show you absolutely everything that we're going to need to make this apron happen. Okay, now that we're done cutting out our pieces to the apron, we're going to get ready to piece them together. So get ready to follow the instructions step by step and read carefully. So now we're going to attach pieces 4 and 5 together, which I already have set aside here. Reading the instructions carefully, it says, with the wrong sides together, you're going to pin the pocket 4 to the side front 5, matching notches having upper edges even, based, encase raw edge of pocket and side front and double fold bias tape. So now I'm going to have to make my own bias tape to match. I wanted to use the same fabric that I was using for the lining on the side part of the skirt, which will be shown right here, and then I'll be using it as the bow to attach the apron together in the back side. So let's go ahead and make our own bias tape out of the fabric. So now I've used the fabric that I was already incorporating with this apron, and I measured out the very top lining of the pocket perfectly for both pockets. This bias tape I did decide to cut on a fold to make it much easier for me to actually turn into double-sided bias tape, which I'm going to fold each side right in that middle crease here. And then I just simply iron down smoothly across like so, and then fold back into the middle so it will appear like a double-sided bias tape on each side. And then it'll be super easy to sew onto the top lining of the pockets. Next step is to attach these pieces together. Make sure that you're following the instructions carefully and getting a thorough understanding of how to piece them together, because one small oopsie is going to have you completely tear open those seams again and try to reattach them. Trust me, as a beginner myself, I have went through so much trial and error and piecing these together backwards, and yeah, fun. All right, before we get started on that, it did say that the face pocket is going to require the double bias tape. So what I have here, just kind of pre-setting that double bias tape that we did create with the spare fabric that we had. I wanted it to be the exact color blue, so I thought just using the fabric that we already had used would be the best bet, because blue is very hard to match. So this is the front pocket piece, and this one is part 4 on your pattern, and I have the bias tape double-sided here, lined perfectly down the middle. Make sure that you really have it pinned in the middle here. I am going to use pinning as guidance as well. I do have a little excess bias tape on the edges, and that's completely fine. You can just snip that right off when you're done. So what I'd like to do, since I am using the same color thread, well, close to the same color, blue of course, I'm going to sew this right down the middle here, but I'm going to stay as close to that edge as possible, just so it's not totally visible, and I don't want those bottom flaps to lift up. So that's basically the main reason why I'm sewing down there. I have seen some people sew on the top part of the bias tape where the middle crease is, but then, you know, you just get the flaps that curl and a little difficult to deal with when you're washing and drying your apron, and then you're constantly ironing down that bias tape. So yeah, just make your life easier and go right down on the bottom there. So bear with me here as I pin these down quickly towards the top, because I need room for that sewing threader needle to just cruise on through the bottom there without any interruptions. And you're going to pin it down the middle like so. Just like this, so you guys can actually see what I'm doing here. All right, and always check the back side too. Try and don't make the pinning super tight, because you don't want the bias tape to really scrunch up and start giving you like a ruffling effect, which, I mean, of course, if that's what you want to go for it, but going for a more straight, clean edged trim with the bias tape. There we go. So right down the middle, up on the top there, keep it nice and tight with your fingers so the material doesn't slip through. You want it as straight as possible, even on both sides, pinning it towards the top there. Remember, not too tight with your pinning. And you want to make sure that your bias tape is even throughout all directions. Try and push up pocket part 4 close to the top as possible, just so it's even, and it should look like that, and voila, now we're going to sew it together. I've already preloaded my sewing machine. I have my bottom stitch in white, which doesn't really matter because it's just the bottom stitch, and then I've got a shade of blue. Hopefully it is not totally visible on this bias tape. So here we go. Oh, and already my pin is getting stuck in there. So I'm gonna remove that one. This is a lot better if you use clips. I don't have those yet. Gotta get them. And I'm just using a simple double straight stitch. That's it. Okay, voila. Now we're going to unpin whatever remaining pins were left. I did have a little trouble there. The pins were getting stuck in the footer part by the needles. So just be super cautious and remember, be patient while you're doing this. I'm just going to trim off the excess string here. And I want to make that look really clean, really pretty. If you want to go the extra mile, you can also sew the sides here super enclosed, but I mean, I think this is good for me. I'm pretty simple, perfectionist sometimes, but not with this particular one. I'm excited to see what it looks like finished. I'm really excited to use this fabric, so I'm like, woo, let's go, let's go, let's go. All right, so it should look like this. I mean, definitely you want your stitches more even. Hey, you know, it is what it is. And the white on the back here, you can't really notice it, but look, it's pieced together beautifully, and voila, there you go. All right, now moving on to the next steps here. We already added our bias tape to the top of our front facing pocket like so. So now we're going to actually create the physical pocket itself onto the panel. So what I did here was to make our lives a little bit easier and to avoid the confusion when we flip it right side out. What's going to happen is you're going to put that front panel face front like so. And then you're going to use the face part of the skirt, which is piece 4 onto piece 5. And you're going to pin them together like so. You're going to have back to back. Now, this is a little bit different from the actual instructions, but I've literally redid this part of the video at least 5 times because, yes, to this day, I still sew things inside out. So to avoid that confusion, I'm going to do it my way and add a little twist with making a pocket. So we're going to add the piece 5 panel face front like so, and then piece 4 face of the pocket with the bias tape already attached just behind it, and you want the face to face the back of piece 5. Very important when you're doing this. I pinned it on both sides like so. I left the top exposed and I left the bottom exposed. That's very important because when we turn this inside out, what's going to happen is that this pocket in the front is actually going to appear a reverse side like so. And just to give it a test run, I've done this test run numerous of times. That would have been funny if I added this to like the video bloopers to show you. But anywho, when you flip it inside out like so, you already see the front part of the pocket appearing in the front, and then what happens is that this is going to be behind it. And I'll just do a quick 1, 2, 3 to show you the method to my madness here. A lot of trial and error with sewing. You're gonna go through it. It's okay. We're gonna get through this together. I promise you that. Definitely not as easy as this stuff looks, but here's my little video tutorial to try and help us all out on that. And I'm just gonna keep going, keep pulling here to show you what I mean. You got your pocket. There we go. Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. So once you sew the sides together, right, in a perfect world, just pretend that these sides are already sewn together. You are going to see, voila, this. Of course, you know, we're only using about 1/4 of the inseams, so it's not going to be as curled out like that. It's going to open flat and bloom beautifully like the flower that it is. But anywho, yes, this is what we're going to go for. Once these two sides are completely sewn together with this panel, we're going to tuck just about 1/4 of an inch underneath here, and we're going to do an exposed stitch to just camouflage here with the fabric to actually create that pocket, and then voila, you have a pocket on top of a skirt. And then we'll move on to the next part to add the back panel to actually match the height, the length of the mid front of the panel of the skirt. There's only 3 panels to this, so It's gonna be a quicker video, short and sweet. And once you guys get the hang of making this style pattern, ruffle apron skirt, it's gonna be a lot easier for you. Definitely easier than the full apron that I completed. So I'm just gonna put this in reverse from what I did before. Probably have to fix the pinning just a tad bit, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew. Let me see where my pins are. And if you can't ever find your pin, if you're just touching the fabric, I'm pretty sure you're gonna find it by poking yourself with the pin that you were looking for. All right, so now we are back to normal, somewhat normal here. All right, and we are going to sew whatever side you prefer, because the stitch will be covered when you sew this way. I'm gonna sew about 1/4 of an inch right here, just so we're not taking up too much room of the fabric. And very important, you wanna make sure that the bias tape is leveled with the top of the skirt here, okay? Make sure it's pinned up really nice, and let's get sewn. Now we have one side sewed. I did pretty much of a standard stitch here. I did our zigzag stitch. I went over it 3 times with this type of material. The zigzag stitch again on top of this type of fabric, since it's a bit of a thicker quality cotton style with like a canvas-like texture to it. I went over that about 3 times, and I am using a decently strong thread for my top threader. It is a German brand's cotton thread. And then for the bottom stitches, I'm using a basic polyester thread. Believe it or not, I really don't like to mix and match polyester with cotton threads, but I mean, it's working out pretty well, so I am fortunate for that. And what I did here, very importantly, on the top and the bottom stitch here, wherever you're going to close or end off on your stitching, make sure you go over this about like a gazillion times, just to make sure it's super secure so the stitches don't unravel. And we are just going to go ahead and finish this side and move on to the next part. Here we go. So this is what it's going to look like completed. Next, we're going to go about maybe just about 1/4 here, and I am going to pin that down so I can just cruise across with a regular basic single or double stitch with a nice pretty white to go across this here. It will be an exposed stitching, but at least it'll be our pocket that is complete for the panel of the skirt. And then we're going to move on to the next step and add a little bit more length here to the left or the right side of the skirt to match the length of the middle panel of the skirt, which has a little bit, about like 4 or 5 inches more in length. And it's just really to add a pop of color or a really cool, fun, unique design with that extra added length behind this layer. In my opinion, you can really go back and forth with that. All in all, you could also make this panel the same length out of the same fabric as the middle panel was, so you're not mixing and matching fabrics, that type of thing. But I want to get the pop of color in there and see what it looks like all sewn up. So let's go ahead and sew the bottom of this pocket. Okay, nicely done. Alrighty, so I went over the stitches about 3 times, just my go-to, especially if I'm using thicker material here. I also went over the ends each about a gazillion times because that's how I roll. Just give your pocket a test here. Definitely check out to see if there are any little holes that you may have missed or went over. Make sure you get a good close-up there, and it looks actually pretty nice. You have a little rolled to the material there, and you can check out the inside of your pocket, which is really fun and unique. And don't worry about the raw edges here. We're going to really add some pizzazz with the ruffled trim that I picked up from Walmart, but we're not going to add that just yet because we have to attach the panels together so we don't waste all of that ruffle trim on going all around each panel. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and finish that next panel, and then we're going to add the length to the back of this baby. So let me go super fast for you, and we can get started on the next part. Now that we have both of our side panels complete with pocket, completely stitched, seams look good. Alrighty, now we are going to go ahead and apply the fun additional background piece here of the garment. So this is just to add a pop of color. I have it laid out so I can kind of like visualize what it's going to look like here. And then it's going to be very interesting how to incorporate this piece. I think what I want to do is keep it really simple. And I'm laughing at myself now because I totally missed a step. And I think it had to do with the confusion part, whether or not if I was going to use the same fabric to match the trim to add that extra length, or was I going to use just the full floral panel and not add this extra color. So technically it looks like I should have sewn this back piece prior to making this pocket, because now it's going to be tough that the pocket is already made. So fear not, Lenny has a solution here, and you can actually shorten the amount of fabric that you used. I am going to pin it, of course measure it up with the middle panel, and I'll bring that piece out in a second. But what I'm gonna do here is actually a really funky way to sew it together, but a little bit tough too. I think I can do it. We're just going to do a simple roll over about 1/4 of an inch again, and then I'm going to do an exposed stitch right onto this piece of the panel here, so we don't have to actually ruin the rest of the panel or that beautiful stitching I did for the pocket. So apologize about that confusion, but trust me, I totally know what I'm doing here. All right, so here we go. Middle panel. This is the middle panel. It is longer in length. All right, so what I want to do, I'm actually going to adjust slightly so you guys can see what I'm doing over here properly. Excuse all the mess, okay? Bear with me. Alrighty, now you see what I'm working with. Whew. This is important parts of the puzzle. So what you want to start off with first, I like to start off with the bottom to make sure it's even and work my way up to the top. And this will help me figure out what the actual length will be for that beautiful background piece of the apron. So if you need to, you can start by adding a couple of pins just down the bottom there so you don't lose that length. gonna pin it like so. There you go. And I'll add one more pin just to make me feel better. Okay, next, actually, I think I'm going to pin it all the way up. Depending on what fabric you actually use, it might curl a little bit, even if you have the fusible interfacing. So it looks like maybe a couple of those pieces were slightly cut uneven. Oopsies. And also because I already created that pocket, so it is sewn. So this seam allowance isn't happening on this side of the skirt. So be super careful with that when you are measuring. Next, just keep going. Lenny, you're just going to keep pinning. Just keep pinning, keep pinning. Be careful not to damage the stitching. That's the most important part. Don't damage your stitch. All right, so we'll keep on pinning right along there. Keep on going, just a couple more. Let's see where we're at. All right, now I'm getting a better vision of what the skirt apron is actually gonna look like. I keep on saying skirt apron. I should just say half apron because it is a half apron, but it resembles a skirt so much I can't help myself. I love this style. All right, now that I'm pinned up, and this is just for measuring, let's see where we're at. Now I have the blue piece still loose. I want that loose for now until I measure it perfectly. And it's okay to overlap a little bit more to make it even with this side, because this is where eventually I'm going to be sewing on this side here. All right, so now that we have our length perfect, I'm going to pin the top. Yes, I'm starting from the top with this blue piece. And eventually, I'm probably going to cut off the excess fabric that I cut too much off of, because I couldn't make a decision on what type of fabric I was going to use, what design style I was going to do, but oops, that's okay, close enough. You live and you learn. All right, so I got a little more room here. I'm just going to pin this for visual, because I am going to turn this on the opposite way and actually sew it so the seams are not exposed. And I will show you how to repin all of that and what that looks like, but this is just to help us get through the next step. We're almost there. All right. See? So, oh, yeah, that would help if I pin that side too. Let me pin that side. Hopefully we all learned something today. All right. We learned to follow the directions completely, Lenny. That's what we learned to do. Oh, great. And I'm going to pin just a little bit more here so it doesn't fall apart on me while I'm trying to show you an example. Here we go. Okay. Better visual effect. Now you have these pieces pinned together. Look at the length on the bottom there, even on the top here. And this is what it looks like on the back side. You can trim that. I swear the instructions told me to do it this way. Probably went somewhere a little bit different on the instruction part there. And I was still trying to figure out if I wanted to use this blue fabric or just keep it the same length with this one fabric. But yeah, anywho. Long story short, so that's what it's going to look like visually, okay? Now I'm going to super forward this part of the video and I'm going to undo my stitching And I'm going to show you how to pin these together this way, so we're not going to give an exposed stitching through here. We're going to make it look nice. All right, let's go super fast. So now we're going to go ahead and get stitching. Very important part here, what we want to start off with. I'm actually going to sew these panels together first, and then I'm going to sew our pocket to the back piece here. I think it's going to help me out a little bit more to have some wiggle room if I do it this way, and I'm going to keep it super close to about literally 1/4 of an inch, and I don't want to ruin that pocket design either. So we are going to go ahead and sew. I think going this way is going to be easy. Woo! Alrighty, so now we have attached one part of the panel. We're not 100% finished with this part yet, but I figured this would be making it a lot more easier for me to actually sew this pocket piece together with our back lining. Yeah, definitely a time saver, because I think it's going to be slipping and sliding all over if you were to go to here first. So let's just get a close-up here. You don't have any exposed stitching on that part, which is super duper cool. I appreciate all of that effort I put in there. Nice pat on the back. All right, now what we're going to do is straighten out this fabric a little bit. I didn't want to necessarily attach the full part of the fabric at first, but I think I am following this pattern correctly, and I am actually going to be okay with attaching the pattern instruction properly, following the pattern instruction properly. So I'm okay with this. This is this is an A-okay for Lenny. I think I see how it's working and how it's all coming together and forming. Let's see, I'm going to repin down these sides here. I did leave a little extra wiggle room for the fabric, so my fabric pieces did come out a bit larger than the pattern itself, and I always do that just for seam allowance purposes. And yeah, so what I'm going to do here is just simply sew this shut just right here, and then I will go over this top with a blue stitch, so I'm not showing too much of that, or I don't know, maybe I'll just stick to the white, and I'm actually going to sew it this way, so hopefully it's not going to be too exposed. And then we'll move on to sewing the back part of that pocket. Now that I think of it, I'm actually being pretty silly with sewing that outer edge. I completely forgot. We're adding trim. Hello. So this trim is going to look so beautifully scalloped around the edges here, and it's totally going to be like invisible, and you're not going to see any flaws. This excess stuff I'm just going to completely cut off once the trim is attached. So we're just going to go right along and go ahead and sew that baby down. Yeah, I was like looking at this a little bit puzzled. And then I'm looking at the picture of the pattern. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We're totally adding scalloped trimming. Duh. Ay, ay, ay. You live and you learn. So this one is going to be a little bit more tedious here to do. I guess it's kind of called like a rolled hem, kind of, in a sense. Probably wrong on that part, but hey, you know, close enough, making up my own lingo here. And we are going to try to sew that part down. And I'm going to go ahead with my zigzag stitch on that one. Make sure it's super secured and hope for the best. voila, check that out. It is fully secured. I went over that a few more times only because it was going on to a thinner part of cotton, and the actual pocket itself is a thicker pocket. So yeah, triple threaded that bad boy, and super durable. Awesome. I love it. I see it totally coming together. I'm so excited. I'm going to go ahead and work on the additional part of the panel, and then we're going to speed right on through that, and then add the scalloped trim and the nice little waistband bow combination, and we are so close to finishing this. Yes. All right, so now I have my ruffle ready. I do have a decent amount of ruffle here. It should follow through the entire apron. I hope so, because I'll be really sad if not. I guess to be safe, we'll just unroll the whole thing because I don't want to sew the whole thing through and then come up short. There's trimming literally along the entire apron except for the top. So we'll just do like a quick breeze of measuring here to make sure that we have enough, and we have enough. Hallelujah. Okay, so now we're going to start from the top. I always start with you know, whatever your easiest side preference is. There is a little bit of slack here. I don't want it to kind of get in my way, so I can just trim that really quick. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks. Next, you want to make sure that your trim is facing the right way. If it has a particular way to face, here this is kind of double-sided, but I do see that this is a slightly nicer finish on this side. So now I'm going to go ahead, work from here, just because I want to start off on this side. And we are going to start from the top. Woohoo! And this is trim, so you're literally going to sew right over the top here of your trim. I'm going to sew right on top of that, zigzag in white, and boom, it's going to blend right in. All right, exciting stuff, exciting stuff. Yes. So exciting. Okay, we finally added our trim to our apron that has been put together. So I can really see all of this beauty come together. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. It's like looking like exactly how I envisioned it. I'm just trimming off excess thread to make it look super amazing. Okay, I'm just double checking our trim here. I did one simple layer of the crisscross stitch to attach the all of the trim. I did find one little spot that I will touch up on just after this part of the video, but other than that, holy cow. Whoa, it's like seriously been brought to life. I'm so excited about this. The trim really adds to it. This isn't like the best position, so I will definitely model this after the video is done. Now we're just going to add a simple sash. I'm going to go ahead and cut out that pattern on the sash with this same color blue, and we're going to, you know, trim it up really nice, and yeah, voila. We're just going to attach it and make it look like a little belt, and we're gonna be done. So exciting. Alrighty, so we are down to the very last part of making this amazing half apron. I am so excited that we have come this far, and I've already learned so much about sewing this type of style of apron. So I am using the same fabric material that was lining the pockets of this half apron and the bias tape trim for the pocket, but it did say to sew on a fold, and unfortunately I didn't have enough length in that color fabric for folding it on half. So I actually have two separate pieces. What I'm going to do here is actually going to sew it down the middle, and we will have a little bit of a crease, but hey, At least it's going to make that lovely sash that we can attach to the waist of this half apron and tie as a bow to wear this apron. Next, we're going to trim up the side edges here. Have a little bit of, ruggedness going on and unevenness. We're just gonna trim that up, and so we're just gonna fold it over about like 1/4 of an inch, maybe even 1/2 of an inch, and just sew right over that. I have some blue thread that we're gonna go over, and voila. Once that's finished, we're going to attach it over to that half skirt, and I'll show you how to sew it on, and we're gonna be done. Okay, we finished the sash. So excited, super cute, super simple. Now we're just gonna trim off any edge of the fabric that might be coming out just in case, and trimming excess string. Now we're gonna attach it to the apron. Here we go. Okay, so I have the apron on my lap right now. I'm gonna do my best to work with the little space I have and lay it out so you can kind of see it. Very important, you want to measure it. So center your ribbon or your sash, whatever you'd like to call it, and simply, I guess, the middle part here that I did by accident is great for like this purpose as like guidance. So how I'm doing it, I'm gonna have my ribbon ends kind of point down, go on the down angle there. That's how I like my ribbon to end. And we're just gonna match it up here with the length of the apron. You can go over the trim a bit, it's totally up to you if you want to go over the apron about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch, whatever your preference is. Just make sure that it is attached to the apron. And yeah, I mean, I've seen, it looks like in the image there that it's actually about 1 inch over it, but I just want it to be supported. So I'm gonna go ahead and play around with this, and then we're just gonna get right to sewing, and we are finished. We're not gonna sew completely all the way on this sash, by the way. How we're gonna do that is a little unique. I am using the blue thread, so hopefully it doesn't show through too much. And I'm literally just gonna go on the bottom here to attach it to the waist, and then on the ends we are going to go up about wherever the fabric attached here on the ends. I want to stop right on top of the trim just for that little extra added support. So I'm going to go ahead, center this, and start pinning, and we're going to go sew. Okay, finished product time. Yes, we did it. I am so excited to see this finally come to life, and it really wasn't that difficult. Super proud of myself right now. I hope that all of you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, thank you so much. This is my very first time making this style apron. Thank you for tuning in to Lenny Cosplay and Crafts YouTube channel. I appreciate it so much. I look forward to doing way more tutorials with all of y'all and getting into way more crafts as well. If you like this video, please support me by giving me a big thumbs up. Comment below with your feedback about this video. Let me know if you decided to try this pattern. This pattern was from Simplicity. I'm going to get that for you right now. Here's the info about the pattern that I used for this, and I made the type B half apron. All right, and be sure to subscribe to my channel to see more fun tutorials, cosplay stuff, and much more. Why don't we go ahead and try this on? Yeah. All right, I'm so excited. Yes. So I did use a size small. A size small is a US 4. or it's between a 2 and a 4, but mostly it's like a 4. So excited. It fits so perfectly, so comfortably around the waist. It ties really nice as well. I'm just gonna give myself a little bootleg bow back here. You can't really see what I'm doing, but A for effort. Okay. All right, guys, we have completed it. I am so excited to show off this beautiful 1950 style vintage half apron by the Simplicity pattern that I used. I will go ahead and show you guys this pattern number. We did half apron type B on the patterns there. Definitely pay attention to all of the instructions on how to do the certain cutouts and how to attach all of the different pieces to this. Pay attention with what type of fabrics you are using, and if they do have any really pretty patterns that kind of paint a pretty picture, kind of like what I did today, because you will have to go back and forth with kind of selecting where you're going to make your cuts in that fabric. So if you are going to use a fabric like this with a really elaborate pattern, make sure that you get enough fabric to do so. Pretty much this was the easiest apron that I have made so far compared to the full apron type A that I had made earlier. Maybe I'll do another tutorial and show you that one, but wow, that used so much fabric because of the pattern. Oh my goodness. This was great. Literally, it's just 3 panels in the front here. Let me just scoot this down so you can see the lovely half apron. So literally, it's just 3 lovely scallop panels in the front. I used super simple trim, which is a beautiful ruffle trim, and you just sewed it right on top there, blended in with the color of that fabric, and boom, you can't even notice it. I wanted to use another pretty blue to really make the darker, brighter colors of the floral design pop out. So I used a cotton fabric in a really pretty royal blue, and I also used it to make the bias tape for the lining on the pockets. I absolutely am obsessed with any dresses or type of skirts that have pockets, so this is a really nice, fun, comfy design of an apron, and I love the vintage design. I love how it looks. I can't believe that, you know, I was able to do it. I did use some fusible interfacing. I don't have the exact number style that I used for the interfacing, but the type of interfacing that I used was made for kind of like cotton polyester brands. It's very lightweight, so I still wanted a little bit of movement in the fabric. I didn't want it completely like stiffed out, kind of like looking like a petticoat. But you can also do so much with these designs to the aprons if you wanted to really incorporate different designs or different type of colors, such as the bias tape or the sash above. You can just use any type of ribbon that you have. If you have a really thick, wide ribbon, whether it was satin or something of that type of material, you can totally use that as the sash for this apron. The bias tape, you can use gross grain or satin ribbon as well, and just fold over the top and sew right across the pocket lining on the top of that pocket there. The trim, you could do the same thing. Use ribbon, gross grain, or satin as well. Any type of thickness, and you can just sew right over the top with the same color of that material, and it blends right in. Those are just a couple of quick tips to use if you're ever in a pinch when you're making a type of apron, skirt, or a dress design like so that would need any type of trims or ribbons or waistbands or sashes, that type of thing. So yeah, I think that concludes this video. I had so much fun making this for the very first time with all of you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my tutorials and my YouTube channel. Everyone, I'm Lenny Cosplay. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Lenny Cosplay and Crafts. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you make aprons as well. Let me know in the comments below if you have any feedback, any tips, advice, or if you made an apron yourself and how did it turn out. Please give me thumbs up if you really enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to my channel to continue supporting me. Thank you so much, and I hope to give you another video very soon. All right, crafters, until then, stay crafty.